Chapel, Utah. Tell me that.
Consider what we're observing here. 3 individuals positioned in front of Charlie, filming his every move. This footage captures only his left side perspective. Beyond these cameras, thousands of attendees filled the venue, many documenting the event themselves. Behind Charlie's position, not just 1 but 2 high-end professional cameras were strategically placed. Notice the individual wearing the blue shirt, clearly identifiable as part of Charlie's protective detail. Throughout the entire recording, this person maintains a seemingly casual presence while performing several subtle yet questionable actions. Pay attention to what happens next.
We're going to get started, everybody. You know how it works. Question answer. Thanks for the link and my reply. That was great. Really appreciate it. Are you asking him a question? We're going to be here for a couple hours.
Did that catch your attention? Let me replay that sequence at reduced speed. The security personnel in blue and Charlie's personal protection officer positioned near the tent both glanced at their timepieces at precisely the same moment. This synchronized action suggests they may have received a simultaneous notification, likely transmitted to Charlie's entire security apparatus. What type of notification would prompt such a response? Could this represent some form of coordinated signal? Various recordings have circulated online showing multiple individuals, including the protection officer stationed at the tent, making what appeared to be hand gestures moments before the incident occurred. However, this particular footage hasn't received widespread attention. We're seeking insights into what kind of alert system could have been activated, as understanding this element might unlock additional answers and reveal broader connections. Keep your focus on the person in the gray shirt with crossed arms. This individual will perform what is arguably the most suspicious action following the incident, behavior that substantially undermines the authenticity of the entire situation. You'll witness this momentarily. Once again, observe this expensive professional camera positioned directly in Charlie's sight line. Yet mysteriously, all circulated footage appears degraded and lacking clarity. Additionally, another substantial camera setup sits directly behind his position. Did you notice that interaction? The security operative just passed by the protection officer and discreetly exchanged what appears to be a signal, which the officer acknowledged by transmitting what seems to be another signal, presumably directed toward someone else in the vicinity. Review that sequence carefully. What do we have in this frame? Yet another high-quality camera that inexplicably cannot produce footage exceeding basic resolution quality. Watch as the protection officer checks his timepiece again. He'll then shift his gaze upward and to his left before consulting his watch a second time within a 4-second interval. What purpose does this serve? Why would someone need to verify the time twice in such rapid succession? Let's examine this behavior at reduced speed.
Charlie Kirk's protective team consisted of seasoned professionals, not inexperienced personnel. These were individuals who had managed countless similar engagements, thoroughly trained, comprehensively briefed, and fully equipped to identify and neutralize every conceivable risk, not merely threats from the alleged perpetrator Tyler Robinson. That day, 3 distinct protective perimeters surrounded him. The innermost circle comprised personal security maintaining immediate proximity. The secondary perimeter consisted of personnel stationed along exit routes and crowd boundaries. The outermost ring handled surveillance operations, radio communications, and coordination with campus authorities. On paper, this configuration appeared impenetrable, a comprehensive network engineered to respond before danger could materialize. However, the recorded evidence presents a contradictory narrative. Personnel assigned to the Eastern Corridor abandoned their designated positions 11 minutes before the initial alert. One officer remained stationed near a doorway, repeatedly focusing attention on a mobile device rather than monitoring assigned feeds. Another individual appears to deliberately remove their communication earpiece, not accidentally but with intentional action. Before proceeding further, please share your thoughts in the comments section while following this developing investigation. We commit to responding to every comment received. Your feedback and contributions to this report are valuable. We advocate for justice. We advocate for Charlie. These individuals held the responsibility of protecting him. The personnel position closest to Charlie Kirk that day, those compensated specifically to react instinctively, to identify danger before others could perceive it. Yet when the weapon discharged, something extraordinary occurred. They remained motionless. No immediate response, no visible alarm, just unexpected stillness, as though they possessed foreknowledge of what would transpire. When one team member was eventually brought in for questioning, his response was telling. No protest, no attempt to defend his actions. He simply averted his gaze and displayed a faint smile. This reaction, absent any fear or confusion, characterized instead by composed acceptance, transformed this tragedy into legitimate suspicion. When security personnel freeze during critical moments, lives are lost. When they maintain silence afterward, questions naturally arise. Were they protecting him that day or safeguarding something entirely different? Charlie Kirk's security team has finally been implicated. Their responses reveal the authentic story. Yet one fundamental question remains unanswered. Was Tyler Robinson truly responsible or not? What's your assessment? Is the investigation progressing methodically, or are bureaucratic obstacles impeding progress? Express your perspectives in the comments below. That's where we receive your insights and learn your location. To remain informed about every development, subscribe immediately and activate notifications to stay current as new information emerges. We advocate and pursue justice. For several weeks, the footage remained unavailable. Camera angles proved inadequate. Personnel responsible for Charlie Kirk's protection claimed they observed nothing unusual. Now, one of his own security officers has been apprehended, not for providing testimony but for concealing information. This response extends beyond mere defensiveness. It demonstrates calculation. Following the discreet arrest, fragments of evidence began emerging. Security camera footage quietly obtained by federal investigators, private communications appearing in encrypted channels, and previously confident statements suddenly revised. Each time new information surfaces, another avenue of inquiry mysteriously closes. It appears that those nearest to the chaos possessed immediate knowledge of exactly what to avoid seeing. Those paid to maintain vigilance were those deliberately averting their gaze. Perhaps that's why this single apprehension, this one officer taken into custody, doesn't provide relief. Instead, it generates questions. Questions about allegiance, about silence, and about the expression someone wears when they've maintained a secret for too long. Sometimes the crime itself doesn't expose the truth. Sometimes it's the reaction that follows. Don't forget this was a concealed arrest, but through our access, we've obtained this information. September 10th, Utah Valley University, 10:43 in the morning. Charlie Kirk exits the stage amid applause, commotion, and confusion. 2 minutes later, the initial shot rings out. The venue layout followed standard protocols for high-profile engagements. 4 security members positioned along the stage perimeter, 2 monitoring exits, 1 stationed at the stairwell, and 1 individual, the person currently under investigation, assigned to the left flank position. His mandate included monitoring crowd behavior, overseeing stage access, and communicating any irregular activity to command. That morning, however, the communication channel went silent. No radio transmission, no advance warning, no response until events had already unfolded. Internal documentation reveals that the directive to mobilize the team originated not from the primary coordinator, but through a secondary channel, one absent from official security transcripts. That channel was erased within 60 minutes of the shooting. 2 cameras designated to cover the left stage area were non-operational. One listed as undergoing maintenance, the other displaying only static interference. Both malfunctions occurred within minutes of each other, and both traced back to the identical security console under his supervision. Yet in a space filled with personnel trained for instantaneous response, one individual remained frozen for 42 seconds. No motion, no defensive positioning, just immobility, observing, anticipating. This isn't panic. This is calculated hesitation. Hesitation in such a profession is never coincidental. Though his identity hasn't been publicly disclosed, insiders reference him as Redline, a designation from his military service. An individual who maintained strict protocol until the morning Charlie Kirk died. Redline occupied the left flank stage position, positioned optimally to detect movement before anyone else. His responsibilities included crowd monitoring, tracking entry points, and maintaining continuous communication with command. When it mattered most, however, that connection ceased. Documentation shows this wasn't his initial lapse. Previous disciplinary records existed on file. Minor protocol delays, brief failures to report signal disruptions during smaller engagements. Nothing sufficiently severe to warrant suspension, but enough to raise concerns about reliability. Those minor delays now appear as unheeded warnings. He currently faces questioning regarding procedural violations and evidence suppression. Officials claim he failed to submit footage from his assigned body camera. When questioned about this omission, his explanation was brief: battery failure. This identical excuse was provided by 2 additional team members that morning. 3 cameras, all simultaneously depleted, all connected to the same security infrastructure. Coincidence? Perhaps, but federal investigators have stopped believing in coincidences. Then the leak occurred. An audio recording. A voice, subdued and weary, repeating an identical phrase, "I was told to stand down," repeated continuously, resembling a confession, yet quieter, as though spoken by someone fearful of being overheard. The file appeared on a private Discord server late at night. The account that uploaded it was anonymous, created mere hours before publication. Within minutes, the recording spread across smaller message boards, encrypted forums, and eventually social media platforms. Listeners debated what they were hearing. Some insisted it was Redline's voice. Others dismissed it as fabrication. Major media outlets moved rapidly to discredit it, labeling the recording as AI-generated misinformation. They cited tonal distortions, background interference, and irregular pacing. Yet the dismissal came too hastily, before any laboratory had verified the file's authenticity. When journalists pressed investigators for commentary, they received silence. No confirmation, no denial, merely a statement that the audio remained under review. That silence inflicted more damage than the recording itself, because if it were fabricated, the Bureau could have stated so immediately. Instead, they said nothing. In that silence, the public began listening more intently. That's when suspicion evolved from theory into pattern. Security firms operate through multiple layers: handlers, contracts, subcontracts. And the deeper the investigation goes, the more opaque everything becomes. Paper trails blur, identities disappear, and accountability gets lost somewhere between informal agreements and formal signatures. The firm supervising Kirk's team that morning was West Shield Tactical, a private security organization based in Arizona. Their client portfolio is evenly divided, half political, half private sector, high-profile individuals, campaign events, corporate summits. The type of company that understands how to maintain sufficient visibility to secure contracts while remaining sufficiently invisible to avoid scrutiny. West Shield Tactical isn't just another security vendor. Their senior advisor previously served as a consultant for the Department of Homeland Security, specializing in counter-surveillance and event threat neutralization. His identity has quietly vanished from the company's current website, though archived pages confirm the association. When federal agents requested the company's complete employee roster, West Shield delayed delivery for 5 days, citing internal verification procedures. By the time the list was provided, timestamps from the event had been modified. Radio logs didn't align with surveillance footage, and audio recordings from the command channel were missing entire segments. Investigators subsequently discovered why. Someone had edited the time records. When those modifications were traced, they led directly back to the same guard. If he was innocent, why alter a timeline that could prove it? When journalists inquired about these discrepancies, the district attorney's office declined commentary. Federal investigators called it an ongoing matter, and the university quietly removed all backstage footage from their cloud storage, citing privacy considerations. Not one agency has explained why internal timestamps don't correspond, or why critical evidence is now sealed under what they're terming a protective review. Officials pledge transparency, yet every statement feels meticulously crafted to communicate nothing substantial. Journalists attempting follow-up described phone calls never returned, emails that suddenly bounce back, and scheduled briefings that vanish from calendars. Behind the polished presentations and legal terminology, one element stands out: The refusal to identify who authorized Westshield's involvement that day. The silence cuts profoundly. Because if everything was handled appropriately, if every camera malfunction and timing error was merely accidental, why conceal the documentation? Why secure footage that could exonerate innocent individuals? One begins to wonder, was this silence intended to protect justice or protect a particular narrative? When the guard was finally taken into custody, his reaction communicated everything. No shock, no anger, no denial, just a quiet acknowledgement like someone who had been anticipating this moment. Reporters outside the precinct described him as calm, detached, almost rehearsed. He didn't appear like someone caught unprepared. He appeared like someone following a predetermined plan. His hands remained steady, his posture composed. When asked if he had any statement, he simply blinked slowly and said, "You already know." That single phrase changed everything. Because it wasn't the words themselves, it was the delivery. There was no fear in it. No attempt to clear his reputation, just certainty, as if he understood he represented a component of something larger. Witnesses recall that subtle smile, not relief, not pride, but recognition. The type of expression that doesn't appear accidentally. To most observers, it resembled surrender. To investigators, it resembled a signal. Signals only possess meaning when someone else is watching. That's what unsettled everyone present. It wasn't the arrest itself that raised alarms. It was how prepared he seemed for it, like he knew it was approaching, like it had already been predetermined. Internal reports reveal missing radio logs. The final 5 transmissions from the inner security channel have disappeared. They were erased at 10:05 that morning, moments before the shooter fled the location. Officially, the system was undergoing a maintenance update. Unofficially, the file deletions were executed manually. Forensic technicians later recovered fragments of the deleted data on a backup drive mislabeled as maintenance records. Buried within were brief cryptic exchanges between security personnel, phrases like "stage clear," "move window closed," and one notation that stood out, "confirm exit route." The file was created hours before the event even commenced. It wasn't a reaction log. It was a blueprint. Further examination revealed the backup contained another folder titled Crowd Control Contingency. It outlined procedures for managing panic in the event of unexpected discharge. The problem, the plan didn't just describe how to respond. It mapped out the path a potential shooter could take to leave undetected. That path matched the route the gunman used. No one can explain how a pre-event contingency file could mirror a crime that hadn't occurred yet. Yet there it was, residing inside a drive owned by Westshield Tactical. Now the question isn't just who fired the shot, it's who cleared the path. First the shooter. Then the silence. Now the individual paid to protect Charlie Kirk caught modifying records. Each element in isolation appears like a mistake. Together, it begins to resemble strategy. Every development follows identical rhythm. An exposure, a denial, and then a disappearance. Evidence leaks, gets discredited, and vanishes. Witnesses speak once, then go quiet. Officials promise answers, then postpone. The cycle repeats until the public forgets what the original question even was. It's no longer about one faulty camera or one unresponsive guard. It's about a pattern of containment. Contain the footage. Contain the narrative. Contain the truth. The deeper investigators dig, the more uniform the behavior becomes. Identical phrases and statements, matching timestamps across falsified reports. The same silence from anyone connected to the security chain. Silence repeating like an instruction. In high-profile assassinations, silence isn't random. It's engineered. Whoever designed it understood exactly how to keep a story buried. One missing file, one absent witness, one calm reaction at a time. Because in this case, the cover-up isn't what happened after the shooting. It might have started long before the first shot was ever fired. If the guard's reaction was rehearsed, then his arrest wasn't the conclusion. It was part of a performance. Every gesture, every silence, every delayed report fits too precisely to be coincidence. It feels less like a chain of mistakes and more like a script. If he was part of that script, then someone else is still directing the scene. Someone with access to the footage, the files, and the power to decide what the public is allowed to see. Charlie Kirk's assassination has been called many things: a tragedy, an attack, a politically charged act. But beneath all of that, it's beginning to resemble something colder. A controlled story built to end where it began, with confusion and silence. Because when truth becomes a threat, control becomes the mission. When control replaces justice, the question isn't who pulled the trigger anymore. It's who wrote the ending. The story of Charlie Kirk's death isn't closing. It's just revealing its next layer.